Thank you all for coming. This is very exciting for KCAT TV. Have you heard of KCAT TV? We're the local media station in Los Gatos. We serve Los Gatos, Monte Sereno, and Silicon Valley. We proudly broadcast your government meetings, bringing transparency to the community, which we're really proud of. We also educate kids in media. Last summer, we're about to start our summer camp program again, so if you have grandchildren, children, we would love to have them at KCAT. We had 400 kids we educated in media last year. It's very important to do this next generation of kids, to give them good journalism skills, movie, TV, everything. We also have our producers network for 55 plus, and this has turned into something really special. They produce the shows that run on KCAT, but Sue took it a little further, and we're very proud of her. She walked in, I guess 3 years ago, something like that, and here comes Sue, and I look at her, welcome, welcome, whatever, but she was this brash New Yorker, and she said anything to anybody. Crude, rude, nice, friendly, da-da-da. And I looked at her and I said, you need a show, and it's going to be called Sue on the Street. And she never looked back. And so we go out filming with her and follow her around, and she walks up to people, just says anything.
I walked up to one woman, excuse me for interrupting, but I walked up to one woman and she said, who are you? And I just sort of looked at her and I said, who are you? And she said, I used to be the mayor. And I said, well, I'm gonna be the mayor.
Right.
And she just stood there staring at me.
Right.
I don't know. And also with Joe Simidian, I interviewed Joe Simidian, and he said, who are you? And I said, well, I'm just a new addition to KCAT. And we had, Joe Simidian and I stood on the street laughing at each other, about he's a very, very nice man. I hope that all of you know who he is. Our government, he used to be in our government, but he's retired.
Yeah, she talks to everybody. So she went from Sue on the Street, which she still does, to writing columns for the Outlook newspaper. Does anyone get the Outlook newspaper? It's a wonderful paper geared toward 55 plus, so I recommend highly that you read it. So she wrote articles once a month, and then we decided with my fabulous KCAT GO team, with Ava back here and Lisa right here, they're amazing, to publish and launch a book for Sue of all of her columns. So it's available for sale in the lobby. She'll be signing the books, and if you buy the book, you get a free gift with it. It all goes to KCAT. Yeah. It's a donation.
We're not making any money here,
We're
boys
not
and girls.
Okay, so what are you doing right now?
What am I doing right now? Right now, I think I've written a column, which is interesting, for the June edition of Outlook. And I thought, you guys are here, you've come out of your houses and, spend some time with us. So I have it here, and I'm gonna read it to you. And you're gonna just think I'm out of my mind. I'm a little worried about this, but so the columns in the newspaper are called Aches and Pains. I do not know why I gave it that name, but I guess because the paper is for us seniors. And everybody realizes that I'm a senior, well into being a senior. Right, honey? My honey's at the back of the room. He's the guy with the crutches. Yeah, he's the guy with the crutches. Okay. So this column is called, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? And I know that was the name of a movie and whatever, but I've sort of played with words here. Sue on the Street has always been in love with gardens and music. Neither is something new to her. For 40 years, I was lucky enough to live a short walk from New York's Central Park, a global icon and tourism hub. We really were like 2 blocks away from Central Park. One beautiful summer day in 1986, I began my walk from Manhattan's west side to the east side through the park. A melody that I'd not heard before wafted through the trees. I soon recognized Brahms, Chopin, and Beethoven. and began searching for the origin of the music. To my surprise, there was a man in a straw hat and a bow tie playing the violin. I spied a large group sitting and standing around him. I chatted with Philip, that was his name, and gave him a generous tip in his violin case. As we chatted, I soon discovered that he had played with the American Symphony and the famous conductor Leopold Stokowski. Unfortunately, Philip had developed macular degeneration, and he could no longer read sheet music. So he took his violin, and I can remember this like it was yesterday. He took his violin and marched over to the park. It didn't take long for park goers to discover him. One of those discovered him was Woody Allen, who lived next to the park and has filmed many movies in the park. He and Philip became good friends, and we became good friends, and he actually played in a garden for our wedding, honey, back there, and for our wedding reception at the inaugural use of the house of the famous James Beard. That's where Bruce and I hitched 40 years ago. 40 years ago. The Central Park authorities decided to require musicians to obtain a permit. Philip was told to leave the park. There were too many musicians. People were just buskers. They just put a hat down and play something, and and they were all over the park. It got to be a little crazy. He clearly could not accomplish getting a permit on his own, so Sue on the Street marched to the Central Park Police Station and obtained for him the very first permit in Central Park. One day, in my jaunt to the park looking for Philip, I came upon 5 young men in shorts and t-shirts sitting on a bench listening intently to Philip. I waited until I could have a few words to find out where these young men were from, since it was unusual to see young people during a workday gathered around Philip. I sauntered over and asked why they were there instead of a bar, a museum, a baseball game, something. They informed me they were sailors from the Ark Royal, docked nearby, the British fleet's flagship. And there were 5 of them just sitting, listening to this old man play violin. It's a beautiful thing. The ship, a pocket aircraft carrier that had recently taken part in the UK Falklands campaign, was in port for the 4th of July celebration and the reopening of the refurbished Statue of Liberty. And now the story begins. I invited the young men, of course, to my house for dinner. They had been at sea for 6 months and were dying to sit on a couch surrounded by a family. They were all married with children in Ireland. Then I took a deep breath from home. No cell phones then, boys and girls, from home, and called my fiance at his office. Do you remember that call, Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, he does remember that call. Guess who's coming to dinner? I guess my fiance, now my husband, even then knew that I was Sue on the Street. They came to dinner with a case of beer and a large bouquet of flowers, the largest I'd ever seen. They were happy, and we all had a fabulous time. They invited us to a private tour of the ship because no private people were going on this ship, and I'll soon tell you why. We met them with our 3 young children at the dock. They appeared in starched dress whites and looked like movie stars as they approached us. One of the sailors picked up Sarah, that's our daughter, who was 5 years old, and carried her on his shoulders up to the bridge. All the rest followed. She sat in the captain's chair and turned the ship's wheel. The 2 older boys did the same with the captain's cap on. They were all absolutely blown away. We went to the deck where the airplanes and the helicopters were housed. They told us we could not go inside the helicopters because they were armed and loaded and ready for war. Oof. Then we all went down to the mess hall and had snacks. I realized this adventure in 1986 was the harbinger of Sue on the Street. Hope to see you soon. Thank you. You know, I never knew I had a skill to go up and talk to anybody. I don't think I've ever thought about it before I moved here. I worked in a mental hospital, and it wasn't a problem for me to walk up to a table with people that were sitting alone that were hospitalized, and in a lot of cases against their will. And I just sat down and talked. Who are you? Where do you come from? Where were you born? Do you like it here? Oh, no, it sucks. I said, yeah, it does suck, but sometimes you need help. You know, just schmoozing, as we say in New York, with people less fortunate than I was. And now that I'm in my 80s, that has become really my calling card. Because I think there's too many people that walk around, you know, when you say, we did a food drive when I first moved here in the community I live in, and they'd never done it before. And I said, people are invisible. They're not gonna come up to you and tell them that they're eating, you know, ramen noodles. They're not gonna tell you that. And there's always gonna be people like that, and we always have to take care of people like that. So I think there's a lot to complain about getting older. As you can see, my husband's on crutches. There's a lot to complain. But there's so much wisdom that you get. So much wisdom. And I think it's important, you know, maybe sometimes we're afraid to say, well, I can't tell somebody what to do. I never tell somebody what to do, except by the book. But I suggest to them they might be happier if when they wake up in the morning, they look for something to be happy about. And I even get down to, what if you find a 10-cent coin on the sidewalk? Use it, say, oh my God, I just found a 10-cent coin and that's such good luck. And you know, there's always smile at somebody and make them smile back at you. It's not so hard to do. And what I've learned is that I'm probably happier now than I was in my 30s, because I know what it's all about. You know, sometimes you have to live a long life to know what it's all about. One of the things I wanted to mention, I did a lecture series at this mental hospital, and the lecture series was called What's in Your Baggage? I don't know, what's in your baggage? And people had to write down on a little card what they've been carrying around, unhappy things they've been carrying around in their baggage for their whole life, or part of their life. And what I found was, maybe we had 75 people came, because it's Manhattan. And what was very interesting about it was that I would say there were only 5 groups. You know, 5 groups. This one didn't like their daughter-in-law, this one, and there were only 5 different groups amongst all these people. And everybody was carrying around similar baggage. And we had a psychiatrist there, and what we did was, I schmoozed with the psychiatrist, and she would schmooze with the people in the thing, in the audience. And I guess the last thing I'm gonna say is, and I'm gonna swear, because Sue on the street swears. Leave your f***ing baggage at home when you get up in the morning. Reevaluate what's important. Because I have learned more in the last 5 years than I learned in prior 50. So I thank you very, very much for coming. And I hope not only do you buy 1 book, I hope you buy 50 books. Give it to everybody you know. They're $10 a piece, and then for $20, you make a donation to KCAT, and you get a little gift. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. KCAT needs money because we're a 501c3. We're a not-for-profit. People are shocked to find that out. You know, and every good deed that we do is a 501c3 doing it. So, buy books, make people happy, smile at people when you see them in the street, and don't worry if they don't smile back at you. It's good to smile at people, right? And I'm smiling at my husband at the back because, you know, he had meniscal surgery 2 days ago, and he dragged himself here, really dragged himself here. And thank you again. Now, does anybody have a question for Sue on the street? Come on, guys. Come on, something. What are your parents like? Give me one person asking a question.
Sue, tell us what your book is about.
What?
Tell us what
Tell
your
us
book
what
is.
your book is about.
Oh, I can tell you what the book is about. It's called Dancing in the Rain. And it's a metaphor, you know, things are bothering you, you're miserable, and it's raining outside. Do me a favor. Next time it rains here, put on an umbrella and go outside and dance in the rain and be silly. Because, boy, it makes you feel better. Really, it really works.
So let's hear it for Sue. And I have something that'll make you all smile. Right when you leave the auditorium, there's food. Oh, questions, I'm
Question.
sorry.
You said you cried on the plane
I didn't
from
wanna
New
come.
York to California. When did you stop crying?
I think I stopped crying when I walked outside one day and saw that our little where we live is surrounded by mountains. And I thought, you know, I somewhere along the line of my bio is that I lived in Australia for a long time, 9 years. And I started to realize that this place looks a lot like where I lived in Australia. And I thought, oh my God. Well, we took all the eucalyptus trees down because of all the fire stuff. So I don't know, probably took down 20 eucalyptus trees. But where I lived in Melbourne, eucalyptus trees were everywhere, everywhere. I think when I realized it reminded me of Australia. And then I met Melissa very quickly after I did get myself a psychologist, and I went. And I liked her a lot. She was Japanese. She's a very nice woman. But I realize I don't need that right now. What I need is to get more involved in the community. And Melissa appeared like a ghost. And here she is.
Not really, not really. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
When will you start on your next book?
Oh, that's interesting. I wrote the one I just read. I wrote about, what, 2 weeks ago, Bruce? About 2 weeks ago? So they're already sending me emails, where's the column, where's the column? And I said, I'm not writing any more columns. But then, you know, it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun, you know? So, and one of the fun parts about it, I have a very intense husband. I don't know if any women here can relate to that. He was in Wall Street, he's a big deal, and you know, it's very intense. And really, he and I write those columns together. And he's my editor. You know, I just go off at the mouth. I mean, I'm not gonna say F-U-C-K in my book, you know. And so he just cleans it all up for me before we send it in.
One that I look for when the outlook comes.
Did you just say that's what you look for when the Outlook comes?
Yeah, the first column I read when it comes.
I wish people would tell me that. Well, I ran into a woman that lives next door, not next door to me, but in the next, I don't know, place. And she said, I read your column first. And I said, why? She said, it makes me smile. So again, we're going back to the smile. I will start writing within, she's got me speaking at another event. and then after that, I'll start writing another column. Yeah. But I'm writing the columns with the hope that people would read them and would feel better after they read them. You know.
You said you talk to young people a lot. I'm just wondering, are they optimistic?
The young people that go to Los Gatos High School that are seniors, and I've interviewed a lot of them, at least 10, 15. I would say they're the hope of our country. You know, something happened to this middle generation that's doesn't like America and whatever. Something happened, and I don't want to get into a political conversation, but these kids, one of the kids said, we all have, 17 years old, we all have to take our civic duties seriously. Now that's a 17-year-old kid. So if there's more kids like that out there, I'm hopeful. You know, there's a lot of people that still feel very fortunate to live here. I say the United States. And I just, you know, I turn off the TV when I hear that, you know, let's kill some more people. You know, I think we've done something for not my generation, but that, what do they call that generation? The kids that are 35. It's those kids, huh? Gen Z, all those kids. You know, I think they're being fed. They're being force fed. You know, my ex-husband is chairman of the history department at a university. And he's appalled. He's appalled at what they're teaching kids these days. So I don't know.
Can I interject? Not interject. Can I come up and we have a raffle to do?
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a raffle.
No, and
Introduce yourself.
yes, so that's what I was going to do. My name is Lisa. I'm on the KCAT GO team with Ava over here, who's taking a picture of me. KCAT GO started recently. This is our first book that we published. This is our first pop-up event. And the reason why KCAT GO started was because KCAT, which is the TV station, and has this beautiful studio and podcast opportunities and camp opportunities, just a whole backing of a technical staff and producers, so 55 plus producers network. And we're able to, Melissa, has been her dream to have this little team that could take people's ideas and concepts and use media magic to make them come to life, and that's what we do. So we were lucky. Excuse me. We were lucky. We had Sue and her columns and her show, and we had all the content we needed to put together this fabulous book. And we're already talking about what we want to do next, which is so exciting. And you know how she talks about that Melissa saw something in her that she didn't know she had. Well, Melissa has done that for many kids in this community in camp, and I'm the mom of 2 of those kids who go to the camp, and she also is someone who's believed in me, taking me on with adding me to this KCAT GO team. And Sue very much has been just, I mean, we've loved this process, especially together, and has also seen, I from what you've said, seen the power and what we can do in KCAT GO. So we're so lucky to have done that together and published a damn book. We published a damn book.
Published a damn book already.
I wrote a damn book. Okay, so now I want you to get your tickets out, and Sue is going to pick a ticket, and you're going to have to pay attention to those little numbers on that ticket. I know that's okay. So Sue,
I'm being scientific. Okay.
go ahead and read I think you can do the last 3 digits and it would be okay.
Last 3 digits, 425.
Yay!
Hey! Woo!
Happy Mother's Day! Now, aren't you glad that you found the terraces today?
Oh my God.
I'm glad I met her.
Everybody, I don't want to take up any more time, I know, because I talk too much. But that guy who just won that thing, you know where I met him? Over the takeout at Safeway. And we stood there for 2 hours talking because he's a psychologist and I work in mental health. So we,
That is so soon.
he couldn't get away from me.
And I didn't know where you were for 2 hours.
And my husband didn't know where I was missing. And I was with Greg in the parking lot of Safeway.
Tell them how we met. What happened? Let's be honest. What happened?
What
How did we
happened?
meet?
What?
You're remiss. How did we meet? What happened?
I was wearing a t-shirt that says, no health, and on the back it says, without mental health. And that's from my days in New York, because I did a lot of charity work with the mentally ill. And he saw my t-shirt and thought to himself, I guess I'm speaking for you now, but, oh, she's in the mental health business. Because he called it a business, and he came over and he said, "I'm a psychologist. You know, I love your T-shirt," something like that. And it was awesome. We've been friends ever since, and that's probably a year and a half ago, maybe. Yeah. And you just life is so full of opportunities to meet new people, smile at somebody at Safeway. I know the guy at the back at the cash register at Safeway, who I found out that the 95-year-old father is coming home from the hospital, so I bought him a lottery ticket. You know, you just, there's always something you can do to make your life better.
What would you like to have stay the same, and what kinds of things would you like to change?
Could you repeat that? Because I didn't get it. It was too close. I didn't get it.
What kind of things would you like to change, and what kind of things?
Are you kidding me? Are you, I'm going to use the F word again.
We don't have time today.
America, I don't care what your party is. I really don't care. But America has still got some of the best to offer people in the world. And the more we tear it down, we're so busy tearing things down. Let's start building things up. The group that I'm a part of, the producers, I bet half of you would love to join the producers. Yeah. It's nothing. You go in, you get a little sandwich, we have guest speakers, we do things, not tons of activities, but just enough to, to keep you engaged. And look, if I hadn't been in the producers, I wouldn't be here. I just got in my car, drove to KCAT, and they were having a meeting, and I thought, I'll just go. What have I got to lose? And instead, I gained a life. So it's always possible. We don't look at these little things that are. We always look for negativity, and I don't know why that is, if that's a human condition, but we look for negativity. And I think we all have to start, what would I do? Oh, God. I take away a lot of social media. I just take it away. If I was president, I just take it away. I don't think it's uplifting this country. I think it's giving people that are nuts and people who have radical ideas, I think giving them a voice. What are we giving them a voice for? Go get your own voice. I got my own voice. I'm right here. And I can go right back to the high school kids. They come out okay. It's when they've been around all this negativity as they get older that they're not going to be okay as they get older, because they're getting all these bad voices. And I think it's on both sides. I don't think it really matters, I say Trump says I'm sure everybody in the White House says this is a bad day. I'm sure people do say that. But we judge everybody. Why are we judging everybody? God is not judging you. I am not deeply religious, but I am deeply spiritual.
Okay, let's sign your book.
Let's sign the book. Who bought the book?
I just want to say a big thank you to all of you for coming.
Yeah.
It means the world to us. I also want to thank Burton Craig. He's filming this event, and he's the president of our board. He's also a Monte Sereno council member. So he's in that little room back there. And Joanne Talisfor, she's our board member too, so she's here. And Ron is out there to take your pictures, so have your pictures taken for free, okay? But right now there's food out there, and thank you for coming.